Records with celebrity guest Nick Mancuso.
Nick Mancuso, who I've known for...
The intellectual Nick Mancuso.
The intellectual Nick Mancuso.
You're not going to get any kind of emotional valences here.
Who I've known for an awful long time. Nick, you don't know this, but you were a huge influence on me.
Oh,
I know you were born in Italy, Canadian. You moved to Canada at a young age.
Yeah.
And then America and all over the world. Me, a Canadian boy, when I went to Toronto, I remember specifically your work and Winston Record and the late Maury Chaikin, who I know was very close to you.
God rest his soul.
Absolutely.
One of the greats.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, buddy, I was in LA with your buddy and my buddy Matt Craven. We were staying at your house in the early 90s.
That's right.
I was trying to figure it all out.
Right.
And there you were in your beautiful house in Los Feliz. You had a place in Santa Barbara, a place in Toronto.
I did.
And I looked at myself going, Nick Mancuso, who I've been respecting all these like 8-10 years of theater. You'd made it. You'd done it. You're.
I had gotten the American dream, my
did.
dear boy. Yeah, it's funny because, I started off, I'm an immigrant kid. I was born in a small town in southern Italy. I was born at a time after the war where, there was immense poverty. And, people were, the World War II, of course, not any of the other endless wars. And we migrated to Canada, as everybody did after the war, from the south of Italy. Came over on one of the last troop ships, kind of like Vito Corleone in The Godfather. I saw America, I was 6 years old. Damn. And I couldn't speak English, and I guess I still can't, but and it was a whole new world. It was probably the most traumatic experience in my life, and probably the reason why I think I became an actor. Yeah, because I had to, in a sense, camouflage myself.
No doubt.
And I had a language that today is not spoken. This part of the world in the south of Italy in those days was like 2,000 years ago. It was a totally different reality. And to go from that to sort of this industrial landscape, it threw me into a complete shock. And I remember learning English watching Bugs Bunny cartoons. Next thing I knew,
Best cartoons ever.
Ever. And Merry Melodies.
Ever.
Absolutely, bar none. Love that stuff.
Me too, man.
In France, they still show those prime time. Do you know that?
Do you?
Text tonight. Text evenly. Cartoons. They're genius. They are genius, man. They were just fabulous. And anyway, so I learned English, and I kind of started to acculturate to this, as you know, the Canadian culture, which was very much like Brooklyn at the turn of the century. From all over the world we came. And so I'm surrounded by all these different cultures, these different modalities, ideas, and so forth. And I guess I became an observer of sort of human beings at a very early age.
No doubt.
And I think that's probably what triggered in me the desire to act, because in a sense I had to. I had to kind of disguise myself. I'd go home to my family. We'd be speaking this archaic language. In my language, for example, in my dialect, we still use these and thous. I had to refer to my father in the thou format. And and there is the 60s.
Did your father ever learn English?
He did.
Okay.
He learned English. He had a very thick Italian accent. My mother never did, God rest her soul. She passed on this year. She never learned, just a few words, except the one time she spoke English. I brought her to Italy. To visit her family and my family, and I was shooting a picture with Sophia Loren in Roberto Benigni's studio, and she hadn't been in Italy a long time. I took her to a restaurant, and the waiter comes over, and she turns to the waiter and she goes, "I would like to have," and I went, "Mom,
it's English."
I said, "You're speaking English." She goes, "You're in Italy," and that was the only time she spoke English. It was